Hello and welcome to another edition of another book review. This week I'll be reviewing Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. I'll talk very briefly about the author, go into a spoiler-free overview of the plot, talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, who I'd recommend the book to, and finish off with what I will be reading for next time. This is the fifth Ann Patchett book that I've reviewed for the channel. Ann Patchett is, I think, one of the most famous non-genre fiction authors working today. I reviewed Commonwealth, Bel Canto, Dutch House, and State of Wonder, and I'll have those links below if you want to check that out there to learn more about those reviews or Ann Patchett herself. To dive right into the review, Tom Lake is the story of a character named Laura, who is a woman in her late 50s, who is in the year 2020 living on a farm with her husband and three daughters. This is the year of COVID, so they're all kind of confined to the farm, essentially. And in the summer, she is telling the story of the summer back, I think the year is 1988, when she dated very briefly a famous movie actor. At the time, he wasn't famous, but they were both in a theater production of Our Town in the titular Tom Lake, which is, I believe, a place in Michigan, kind of a little theater town in Michigan. And she's telling her three daughters the story of this summer and what happened between her and the actor, and eventually how she met their father. And that's the story in a nutshell. Just one briefly, non-spoilery, um, and all the things that you probably enjoy about Ann Patchett are here. I think the book is very well written. I think at this point in her career, Ann Patchett maybe impossible for her to write a bad book. This certainly is not a bad book. I think it's well done. I think the characters are, for the most part, well drawn. I think sentence to sentence, the book is very strong and easy to follow without feeling dumbed down. I think that there's maybe a couple places where she doesn't explain things particularly well. I'm still not sure what a swing is. I believe that's a theater term. It may be an understudy, but it wasn't quite clear to me. But for the most part, you don't need like specialized knowledge or anything to read and enjoy the book. There's a lot of theater in the book, and so if you don't have a theater background, the more you have in that, maybe the more things will be helpful. But I don't think it's crucial to the plot itself. Um, I think there's some really nice touches, even with the language being, for the most part, easy to understand. There's some really beautiful, poignant sentences in the book. There's a part where she's talking to her younger daughter. Her youngest daughter is roughly 20 years old and wants to be an actress, and um, is not having the same success that the main character has had with being an actress. And she says at one point, the past is non-transferable, which I thought was a beautiful line. There's a little bit of generational differences in the book that I think is handled really well. It's not the book. It's not really what the book is about, but there's some nice touches there that I did enjoy that I thought maybe was Ann Patchett's trying to understand the younger generation in a way that I appreciated. Um, so those things were all really good about the book. The cons about the book are not very personal, but the cons about the book are relatively personal. This is the fifth Ann Patchett book that I've read, and um, not to say that she just has two modes, but this book was very similar to me to Bel Canto in the sense that it's very romantic book, and the main character has, I don't want to say that she has no problems, um, but she has very few problems. She's very content with her life. She tells you again and again how overjoyed she is to be on the farm with her daughters. Her husband is exactly who she wants him to be. And so the dramatic tension there, because of the way that the story is told, just isn't really there. And this is kind of, as the children say, a vibe of a book. It's really about the feeling of this character as she tells the story. There's stuff that's thrown in at the end, I think, to try to make her life maybe a little bit more difficult. That does feel a little thrown in. Um, so there's not a lot of dramatic tension. And the character, I think, knows, and I think Ann Patchett realizes that maybe some people have this reaction because of how she talks to one of her daughters, who again wants to be an actress. The main character, like I said, everything kind of has fallen into place for her, and everything she's gotten breaks pretty early in her career that kind of set her up. And then when she when she wanted to make a change in her life, it kind of happened more or less painlessly. And so, it, how interesting that is to read, I think, is maybe debatable by people. And I think she made this character at least self-aware enough to know that this is maybe how other people perceive her, which I appreciated that. I think Ann Patchett may know that as well, where she's like, "Oh, this is going to be interesting." I'm reminded of a Mick Jagger interview he did in the late 2000s where he said, try writing a rock and roll song where everybody is together and happy. And most rock and roll songs are either about the chase of you wanting someone and not being there, and then the aftermath when you've been with them and broken up and how sad you are. And so I think there's some truth to that. I think that you need some kind of dramatic tension or hardships to really identify with the character and characters in the story. And you can take that to extremes, like other things I've read, like Hurricane Season or The Come Down, where everybody is struggling all the time and is miserable. The um, the Devil All the Time. That was another book where just kind of really hard characters going through really hard times. And maybe that's an extreme. This to me is kind of the other extreme where, everything kind of is working out for this character and she's telling this story, but there aren't really like high stakes or anything like that in this book. So your mileage may vary. If you're someone who kind of likes the romantic side of Ann Patchett, I can't imagine you not enjoying this book. So if you are looking for something that's more of a return to Bel Canto, I think you'll enjoy this. The other thing, and it's really relatively minor, there's a character in the book who's like the only main person of color, and the main character goes out of the way to talk about how great and perfect she was. And given the later events of the book, that's a little surprising. And so I wish that character had a little bit more agency in the book and had a little bit more of her own personality, and it really wasn't portrayed as being perfect in every way. I felt that was a little cringy, but um, other than that, if you're looking for something if you've never read Ann Patchett before, if you're looking for a good starting point, if you're looking for something that's a good, fun beach read that's going to make you feel um, pretty upbeat, I think this is that. If you're someone who, like the main character in the book, is in love with love, then you'll probably like this as well. And so, if you're in one of those groups of people, then you're going to like this. If you're more like me, where you like the soul crushing and sad books of Ann Patchett, where people want things and don't get them, this is not really the book for you as much. And it's not, like I said, it's a well written book. If you're looking for something that's kind of escapist, I think that this is that. And if you're someone who loves love, then you're going to like this book. And that's Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. Uh, Next time I'm going to be reading Ours Was the Shining Future by David Leonhardt. I'll leave a link below to all those videos if you want to check out any of the past reviews. They're almost all spoiler free. The Commonwealth video has two videos. There's a spoiler version and a spoiler free version if you want to check that out, which is still my favorite of her books. But until next time, please like the video if you've enjoyed this and subscribe if you haven't. Until next time, bye.